This is kombucha. And so is this. And so is this. 2 decades ago, this fizzy fermented mushroom tea was a niche beverage, largely confined to local farmers markets and organic grocery stores. Fast forward to today, and sales are exploding. The U.S. market for kombucha went from $152 million in 2015 to $492 million in 2019. In fact, some experts predict the category will grow into a $4.6 billion global industry by 2024. Here's how kombucha went from a farmer's market favorite to a global phenomenon. This is Suddenly Obsessed. Kombucha is made with a base of black, green, or oolong tea and added sugar. But this is what gives kombucha its well-earned nickname of, quote, mushroom tea. This is a SCOBY. SCOBY stands for symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, but it's not actually a mushroom. A SCOBY is a disc of floating fungus about the size of a pancake that sits in the tea for anywhere between 7 days to nearly a month as the drink ferments. The SCOBY feeds on the sugar that was added to the tea base. As it eats the sugar, the SCOBY releases bacteria along with naturally occurring alcohol, carbon dioxide, and various types of acids. Kombucha can be sold as a non-alcoholic product as long as the resulting brew stays under the federal government's alcohol content threshold of 0.5%. Otherwise, it's subject to regulation. After the kombucha is done fermenting for anywhere between 1 to 3 weeks, the SCOBY is removed and used in the next batch. Some brewers use the same SCOBY for decades and refer to it as a, quote, mother SCOBY. The resulting bubbly brew contains a wealth of bacteria and yeast, which experts say give the drink its probiotic properties.
Those probiotics are linked to a lot of health benefits: immune health, mood, digestive health. So why kombucha has become such a popular drink is because they're finding that when things are fermented, it creates more probiotics in that drink.
Now it seems like kombucha is having a moment.
Ah!
Wow.
It's on store shelves and in coffee shops, and you can even find it on tap in workplace break rooms. Celebrities like Kourtney Kardashian, Lady Gaga, and Lindsay Lohan have all been spotted with a bottle of the brew. But kombucha's growth isn't due to A-list endorsements or the tea's supposedly amazing taste. Instead, it can be pinpointed to something much more wholesome: growing consumer preferences for healthier alternatives. Shoppers are turning their backs on sugary soda drinks and are flocking towards tea, coffee, and water alternatives like seltzer. Key players like Coca-Cola and PepsiCo have invested millions to diversify their portfolios to include healthier options in an effort to offset soda's flattening sales. And kombucha producers are taking advantage of this movement by marketing themselves as a healthier alternative. That's led to some questionable claims, like allegations it can protect against cancer, fight heart disease, improve digestion, and boost your metabolism. But kombucha can be a hard sell. Some brands will leave strands of the SCOBY to float around in the bottom of the glass. And the fermentation process gives kombucha its unique flavor profile that is hard to pin down.
It's a little bit sweet and a little bit vinegary.
It doesn't taste sweet at all, even though there's a little bit of sugar in it.
Sometimes your initial reaction is, ooh, God, I think this has gone bad.
Kombucha's origins date back to more than 2,000 years ago in East Asia, where a physician reportedly brought the tea's fungus to Japan as a cure for all sorts of digestive issues. Centuries of trade brought it to Russia, and by the 20th century, it found its way to Eastern Europe. It was in Germany where the tea adopted the name we now know, kombucha. Kombucha's commercial origins in the US, however, can be pinpointed to California, when a 15-year-old boy began bottling homemade kombucha in his kitchen in 1995. That boy was GT Dave, and today his company, GT's Living Foods, is the #1 bottler and seller of kombucha in the US based on market share.
You know, GT Dave, what a kooky guy. But I guess, you know, you gotta be kooky to brew kombucha and make it your life.
I think it's awesome. He's paved the way. He was super smart to start the category that far in advance.
Kombucha was one of the many bizarre foods that filled GT's childhood. His parents were gifted a mother SCOBY from the Himalayas and began fermenting their own tea in their Bel Air home.
And I noticed how it went from one batch to 2 batches to 5 batches to 7 batches a week, which was an indication of their consumption of kombucha, because naturally the more you make, the more you need to cultivate and ferment and grow.
He didn't think much about the drink's supposed health benefits until his mother was diagnosed with cancer in 1994. The doctors originally handed her a bleak prognosis, but after further testing, they found she'd made a miraculous recovery. GT was convinced the strange, fizzy, fermented tea she had been drinking had something to do with it.
I became curious and certainly motivated to understand what this bizarre tea was, because in my mind, it didn't cure my mom, and I've never said it cured her, but it certainly helped her.
In fact, he felt his mom's story was so powerful, he included it on its packaging. Commercially available kombucha was pretty much non-existent in the US before 1999. That was the year Whole Foods began stocking GT's kombucha. In fact, sales of soft drinks were astronomical at the time. In 1994, the average American consumed an estimated 50 gallons worth of soft drinks in 1 year. That figure would climb to an average of 54 gallons by 1998. And even today, soft drinks are still by far the most popular drink in America, making up a significant portion of the estimated $88 billion beverage industry in the US. But kombucha has posted a near 35% increase in dollar sales on average over the past 4 years.
Consumers are looking more and more for healthy beverages and foods that make them feel good. And there are very few options out there that both make you feel good and offer nutritional or functional benefits and are natural or made naturally. And kombucha is one of those things that hits all those things that consumers are seeking for.
Kombucha was once mostly popular among hardcore health enthusiasts, but its appeal is spreading to a broader audience. Some of the largest beverage companies in the world, including Coca-Cola and PepsiCo, are investing in kombucha to gain footing in the market. In 2016, PepsiCo acquired KeVita, which is the second largest kombucha brand in the US, for a reported $200 million. Following KeVita in share of the US kombucha market is Health-Ade, which secured an estimated $20 million investment from Coca-Cola in 2019.
We very much see kombucha as a long-term play for us. There's a real consumer demand for that, which is also why we stepped into that space in a very kind of meaningful and intentional way.
But brands like PepsiCo's KeVita have come under scrutiny for manipulating the brewing process by gently pasteurizing the beverage after fermentation. Gently pasteurized beverages are heated for a short period of time, killing bacteria and giving the product a longer shelf life.
So unfortunately, a lot of these companies, they're wired to be manufacturers, and they're wired to assemble their products more than cultivate them. And kombucha really can only be cultivated, it can't be assembled. So when somebody tries to force kombucha in more of a manufacturing environment, the end result is, unfortunately, a lot of times you end up with a compromised result.
From our side, we feel great about our kombucha. We've got great flavors. We're offering it to as wide a consumer group as possible. And I think the more players who can do that, the more manufacturers who can do that, the more people who come into kombucha is definitely a welcome for the future.
But despite how it's made, shoppers have struggled to separate kombucha's clinically proven health benefits from commonly circulated folklore. The short answer, there's not enough scientific evidence to prove those claims.
There is research on probiotics and the microbiome and how those are beneficial for your health, but you can't necessarily say that you've seen a study that shows that kombucha is going to boost your overall health.
In 2010, GT faced a class action lawsuit and agreed to remove his mother's cancer journey from his bottles, along with claims of, quote, weight control, anti-aging, and healthy skin. Consumers have also voiced concern about kombucha's alcohol content. In 2010, test results at a Whole Foods in Maine found alcohol levels well above the 0.5% threshold. Some were found to be nearly 2.5% higher than what they should have been. This resulted in the grocer pulling all unpasteurized versions of kombucha off its shelves until companies could prove that their products met regulatory standards. Brewers like GT's tweaked their recipes to address the alcohol issue and were allowed back onto store shelves where they've remained ever since. And if you picked up a kombucha today, the odds are you'd find a warning label that indicates there could be trace amounts of alcohol in the tea, although that amount can't be predicted perfectly every time. But industry experts seem to believe those concerns are a blip in kombucha's mysterious 2,000-year-old past. And while there's still no concrete evidence to suggest kombucha is the fountain of youth some promise it to be, it doesn't look like it'll be disappearing from shelves anytime soon.